This has been an absolutely tremendous rookie class, and I think it sets the foundation for the rebuild. I really do. I think this is just phase one of building Super Bowl window two, which again, I've taken a little bit of criticism for saying that elsewhere, but I really do believe this is the first layer of Super Bowl window two, and it's a good one. It's a really good one. And that trade, that draft day trade, is shaping up to be really, really incredible. And there's no way Andrew Berry is losing his job after this draft class. And anybody, even just within recent weeks, I had heard people saying that both Andrew and Kevin should be wiped out. And I just don't agree with that at all. I think what we're seeing here is the start of something big.
The Cleveland Browns just had a Category 5 hurricane hit them, and that hurricane's name is Andrew Berry. If you thought NFL front offices worked on patience and keeping quiet, you were wrong. Berry just dropped the hammer so hard that it could be heard in every NFL war room from coast to coast. This isn't the usual way to change the roster, people. This is a full-on declaration of war against excuses, mediocrity, and pointing fingers. The Cleveland Browns general manager has made his choice, and it is Shadur Sanders. If you don't do what you're told, you better pack your bags, because the time for putting up with bad behavior is over. Let's get things ready. The Browns just lost again in a terrible way. The kind that splits the locker room and makes fans scream into the void. But this time, something else happened behind those doors. Andrew Berry was more than just upset. He wasn't just angry about the outcome. He was very angry with how some players and even some coaches handled the Shadur Sanders situation.
Shadur he's a very impressive young man. He's poised, he's calm, he's smart. You can tell that he's been raised by, really quite honestly, a Hall of Fame dad. Look, we're going to get to know him even more over the course of the spring, but he's really impressive.
Word spread quickly through the league that Berry thought his young quarterback was being unfairly criticized and blamed for problems that were much bigger than what one player could control. When a general manager gets to that point, when the need to protect his franchise quarterback outweighs everything else, things start to happen. Big moves, planned moves, moves that shake up the whole company. When Berry shocked the football world by signing wide receiver Jamari Thrash, that's exactly what happened. This wasn't just adding depth. This wasn't just filling out the practice squad. This was a statement signing, a move that made it clear to everyone in that building what was going on. Andrew Berry has chosen the most important player for his franchise. That cornerstone is Shadur Sanders. Every other thing, every ego, every reputation, and every veteran who thinks their name alone will get them playing time are now secondary to supporting Sanders and making an offense that works around him. You can tell everything you need to know about this move by when it happened. It happened right after Jerry Judy's problems got so bad that he couldn't take it anymore. We're not just talking about one bad game. We're talking about a pattern of performance that can't be ignored anymore. Drops at key times, missed chances on third downs when the offense really needed to convert, and a clear lack of urgency when accuracy and execution were most important. Berry can see. He knows what a real franchise wide receiver looks like. He has looked at the best in the league. He knows what the standard is, and what he's seen from Jeudy doesn't even come close to that level. But this is where things get really interesting. This isn't just about calling out one player to set an example. Berry isn't out to get Jeudy for no reason. This is about something much bigger and more important. This is about the direction of the organization. This is about making sure that everyone in the building knows where the Cleveland Browns are going and what their future looks like. Andrew Berry is making it very clear that Shadur Sanders is the future of this team, and anyone who can't or won't agree with that is officially on notice. You can't just rely on your reputation anymore. The time when veteran privilege kept players from being held accountable is over. If you're on this list, you're either working to help Sanders and make him successful, or you're getting in the way of progress. And Berry won't put up with any problems. Consider what this signing really means. Berry is doing more than just adding another body to the receiver room by bringing in Jamari Thrash. He's making things harder for others. He's setting a new standard. He is telling every player in that locker room that performance is more important than pedigree, execution is more important than reputation, and loyalty to the quarterback and the system comes before personal stats or goals. This is organizational alignment happening right now, and a general manager is making sure that his young quarterback doesn't drown in dysfunction. Barry knows something basic that people often forget when they talk about the NFL. If the situation around a young quarterback is chaotic, unstable, and unsupportive, you can't fairly judge him. Shadur Sanders needs more than just talented people around him. He needs some chemistry. He needs to be able to count on people. He needs weapons that will show up when the lights are brightest and the pressure is highest. He needs wide receivers who can make tough catches, fight for extra yards, and take responsibility when plays go wrong instead of blaming someone else. That's what Barry wants now. The signing of Thrash shows that he's willing to change the whole receiver room to get it done. The league saw this move right away. General managers in the NFL knew exactly what Barry was up to. Players saw, agents began to call people. This wasn't a quiet transaction that gets buried in the news. It was loud. This was on purpose. Andrew Barry stood up and said that the Browns are done pretending everything is fine. It's a clear admission that Shadur Sanders hasn't gotten enough help from his receivers, especially when games are decided by the smallest of margins. And when you really look at the film and study what's been going on the field, the proof becomes too much to ignore. Jerry Judy, the wide receiver the Browns traded a lot of draft picks to get and then paid a lot of money to keep, has been a huge letdown this season. You can't just say that the missed catches are just bad luck or tough coverage anymore. They've become a defining pattern, a trend that has repeatedly stalled offensive drives, killed momentum at critical junctures, and put unnecessary pressure back on a rookie quarterback who's already fighting through chaos. Sanders has dropped several passes that have directly changed the outcomes of games. These weren't catches that were too hard. These throws didn't need superhuman athleticism. These were normal NFL catches that veteran receivers should be able to make without even thinking about it. But they didn't get done. That reality made Barry feel like he had to act right away. His message became clear and easy to understand. If you're on the field with Shadur Sanders, running routes in this offense, and wearing a Browns uniform, you better be part of the solution. You'd better be helping your team win. You should be making Sanders' job easier, not harder. There is no longer any room for anything less. Jerry Judy's refusal to fully buy into Kevin Stefanski's offensive structure only made things worse. When a receiver isn't on the same page as the offensive identity, it shows up all over the place. This happens when there is tension between what the system wants and what a player is willing to give. It shows up in timing, it shows up in work, it shows up in faith. When doubt starts to creep in and the trust between the quarterback and receiver starts to break down, the whole offense starts to suffer. Communication stops working. The rhythm goes away. The natural flow that makes great offenses impossible to stop never happens. Let me tell you about one specific moment that perfectly sums up everything that is wrong with this situation. As the game was coming to an end and the pressure was building from all sides, Shadur Sanders made a big change at the line of scrimmage. He looked at the defense. He kept looking down the field even though things were crazy. He also saw Jerry Judy open up near the end zone. Tight coverage, a small window, and a huge moment.
This kind of play can change the momentum in the whole game. Sanders trusted his guy and threw the ball cleanly and exactly where it needed to go so that only his receiver could catch it. The ball hit the target. It was the right time. The throw was up to NFL standards in every way. And then it did. The ball hit Judy's hands and fell short. Just like that, a touchdown that should have changed the game. A play that would have been shown on highlight reels for weeks just disappeared. There were no excuses, no confusion, and no defender made a great play to break it up. There was a catch that needed to be made, but it wasn't. But this is what made things even worse. What happened after the drop was worse than the drop itself. Jerry Judy didn't take responsibility for his mistake like a veteran leader should have. Instead, he deflected. He pointed at people. He publicly criticized Shadur Sanders, saying that the breakdown wasn't his fault and that there were other things going on, like maybe the throw wasn't as good as everyone thought. That answer shocked everyone in the locker room. Veterans saw the deflection. The coaches saw that there was no accountability. And most importantly,
Andrew Barry saw everything. That refusal to admit a mistake and the urge to blame a young quarterback who is trying to find stability and respect showed a growing divide that could no longer be ignored or hidden. When your franchise quarterback is trying to prove himself, the last thing he needs is people blaming each other. Veterans who don't admit their own mistakes and publicly undermine a young player's confidence are the last thing he needs. That moment made everything clear for Barry. It made one thing painfully clear. The Cleveland Browns had to make changes. It had to be done. It was very important. And it was going to happen no matter what some players thought. Then there was the interview that really pushed everything over the edge.
Jerry Judy sat down for questions after a recent game and once again caused a stir with his comments about Shadur Sanders' performance. The picture that had been coming together for weeks suddenly became very clear. It wasn't just soccer anymore. This was about being in line. This was about faith. This was about having faith. Andrew Barry had made his decision, and there was no longer any question about the direction of the franchise. When Jerry Judy was asked about Shadur Sanders' play, his answer shocked people in Cleveland and the rest of the football world right away. Instead of talking about how the team was responsible for its own actions and how everyone was responsible for the team's actions, Judy said that there were big problems with how the offense was running. He suggested that he could clearly see where things went wrong after watching the game tape. But it wasn't just what he said that made everyone in the company nervous. The way he said it was what mattered. He spoke in a sharp, pointed way. His choice of words seemed planned and careful, and to anyone who was paying attention and knew how locker rooms worked, it was clear that the blame was being quietly, but clearly, shifted to Sanders. The whole thing felt less like a team leader talking about problems that everyone on the team was having, and more like a planned public effort to bring down a young quarterback who is still getting used to the NFL instead of protecting the locker room's privacy and promoting accountability across the whole offensive unit. Judy's words put the focus right on Sanders. It made things more tense than they needed to be. It made drama where there should have been peace. It made an already complicated situation even more so. Shadur Sanders, on the other hand, dealt with the same problem in a very different way, and the difference couldn't have been more clear.
Sanders didn't want to blame his teammate for the interception, which many people and experts think was caused by Judy's mistake on the route. He didn't think twice about it. He didn't stop to think about what he could do. He stood up for Judy in public and took full responsibility, even though the tape said something very different. That moment said a lot about Sanders' character and how grown up he is. Sanders chose to be a leader over his own ego, even when he had every right to call out his receiver's mistakes, and it would have been easier to protect himself. He put the team's unity ahead of his own need for revenge. On the other hand, Judy completely avoided taking responsibility. He stuck to his story and kept blaming the quarterback. It couldn't have been clearer or more telling how different these two approaches were. One player always picked diplomacy, maturity, and working together. The other person always chose to blame others, avoid responsibility, and protect themselves. People in the Browns organization saw this pattern. Coaches, front office staff, and Andrew Barry all saw it. He knew right away that something was seriously wrong, not just with how the game was being played, but also with how the quarterback and receiver talked and trusted each other. Barry knows that for a young quarterback to grow properly and for a rookie to reach his full potential, the environment has to be stable, supportive, and completely in sync. You can't expect a young player to get better and grow when you put him in a situation where everyone is pointing fingers and things are going wrong. That's why Barry didn't waste any time once he figured out what was wrong. He made a big decision and signed Jamari Thrash, a receiver he really thinks can handle pressure, do his job well, and, most importantly, help Shadur Sanders in the right way.
Barry strongly believes that Sanders should be treated with respect, patience, and real weapons, not public criticism that is really just film analysis. He thinks his quarterback should have teammates who will fight for him, not against him. Barry's whole way of doing things is even more telling and impressive because of how he works. He doesn't show off. He doesn't hold press conferences to say how loyal he is or to talk about his plans for the future. He just does things. He does things. He shows his dedication through his actions, not his words.
Barry was really impressed with what he saw during Sanders' first NFL game. Barry didn't hold back when he publicly praised Sanders' performance, unlike others who were more cautious or didn't want to commit. As the leader of the offense, he made sure that Sanders felt seen, supported, and trusted. A general manager's confidence is very important, especially for a rookie quarterback who has to deal with pressure from all sides. But as the weeks went by and the season went on, it became clearer and clearer that Sanders wasn't getting the same level of help from his receivers, especially Jeudy, who kept failing to come through when it mattered most. Missed catches that ended drives, messed up timing that threw off the rhythm, and public comments that made things worse inside the company. Barry noticed the pattern forming. He looked at the tape. He paid attention to the coaches. He watched how things worked in the locker room. He then acted with purpose and precision, pulling the right strings to bring in Jamari Thrash and change the mood right away. This move wasn't meant to be a punishment or revenge. It was about moving forward. It was about keeping an investment safe. It was about making sure that the franchise has every possible chance and advantage to do well in the future. Don't make any mistakes about this important fact. Andrew Barry has always been the real mastermind behind Shadur Sanders' rise in Cleveland. Barry has been Sanders' biggest supporter in the organization since the very first day of the draft process. He pushed for Sanders to get a real chance, not just a token gesture. Barry made the choice to draft Shedeur, something that owner Jimmy Haslam later confirmed in public. Kevin Stefanski might talk to the press about quarterback decisions and deal with the public side of those choices, but people inside the organization know the whole story. Andrew Barry has been in charge behind the scenes since day one, making sure that Sanders has every chance to succeed and do well in Cleveland. When it became clear that Shadur Sanders really needed a dependable wide receiver he could trust, someone who would be there when it mattered and make the plays that championship teams need, Barry didn't think twice about it. He moved with purpose and intent, signing a new target to help his young quarterback right away. This wasn't a panic move made in the heat of anger. This was planned, thought out, and based entirely on a long-term strategic vision. This is yet another strong example of Barry's unwavering, unshakable support for Shadur Sanders and the future success of the Cleveland Browns. Barry had his sights set on Sanders from the very start of the draft process. People in the NFL and league insiders knew that Barry wanted to get him in the first or second round at first. When things didn't go as planned and other teams made their picks and Sanders kept falling, Barry's frustration was real and people around him could see it. But that anger didn't turn into doubt or hesitation. It turned into a plan and a lot of waiting. Barry was awake the whole time he was drafting. He stayed ready to jump at the right time. He took full control of the situation when the fifth round finally came. At that point, Andrew Barry did what real franchise builders do. What makes a good general manager different from a great one? He went straight to Jimmy Haslam, the owner, and made his case. Not quietly, not casually, and not tentatively. He pushed for it with all his heart and soul. He fully believed in Sanders and convinced the owners that Shadur Sanders should be in Cleveland and that they couldn't afford to miss this chance. That one moment changed everything for this team. Barry has been in charge ever since, making sure that Sanders not only stayed with the Browns, but also walked into a situation where he had a real chance to succeed from day one. That kind of alignment in an organization doesn't just happen. It doesn't happen by chance or luck. It happens when a general manager cares so much about his quarterback's future that he is willing to put his own reputation on the line for that belief. Barry has always been steady, focused, and completely committed to helping Shadur Sanders grow. Barry has never wavered, even when the media, fans, and analysts questioned the pick, and even when things went wrong internally. He kept adding to the infrastructure. He kept changing things. He kept his money safe. Andrew Barry has finally had enough after months of Jerry Judy's disappointing performances and growing attitude problems. This last move wasn't made on the spur of the moment. It wasn't done out of anger or frustration. It was late. Barry knew that it was important to protect the future of the Cleveland Browns. That meant facing problems head-on and directly, even if it meant completely changing the receiver room and putting pressure on veteran players. The signing of Jamari Thrash sends a message that no one in that building can get wrong or miss. Andrew Berry is completely dedicated to giving Shadur Sanders the help, weapons, and setting he needs. The organization will no longer put up with key players who don't do their jobs well, make excuses, or don't take personal responsibility, no matter how much they make or how well known they are. Jerry Judy has failed to step up when it mattered most, time and time again, and he has blamed others instead of taking responsibility. Now, for the first time since arriving in Cleveland, he is feeling real, tangible pressure. He is on very thin ice because he won't take responsibility for his mistakes and has tried to blame Shadur Sanders in public several times. Trust is the most important thing in the National Football League. Players need to trust each other, coaches need to trust players, and the front office needs to trust the roster. And when that trust is called into question and starts to break down, change happens quickly and decisively. This move also sends a clear message to everyone on the team, from the best players to the practice squad members. Mediocrity will not be accepted or allowed. Your past reputation won't keep you from being held responsible. Big contracts won't keep you from having to compete. Now that Jamari Thrash is in the picture and new talent is coming into the receiver room, the competition is very real for everyone. There are no longer any safe roles. Players who used to take snap counts for granted can now get them. Players will earn playing time based on how well they do, not because they are older. It's only a matter of time before Jerry Judy's role is looked at again and maybe even cut down a lot, if he doesn't quickly and significantly improve his performance and take responsibility. In Cleveland, the changes have officially begun. The old way of doing things, which included letting veterans get away with poor performance and accepting it, is over. Jeudy now has a very real chance of being replaced completely if her work and personal responsibility don't get better. Andrew Berry has made his point very clear right now by doing things instead of just talking. You can't stay on this team if you don't play at the level they need, support the quarterback and the system, and take responsibility when things go wrong. That's how easy it is and how hard it is. The Cleveland Browns are making something special out of Shadur Sanders. And everyone either agrees with that vision or they don't. There is no middle ground anymore. There is no room for half measures or promises that are conditional. Now it's up to you to decide what to do. What do you think of Andrew Berry's brave choice to bring in Jamari Thrash and completely change the receiver room? Is this the right thing to do to show that you fully support Shadur Sanders and make it clear that the quarterback is the most important thing? Is bringing in competition finally the wake-up call Jerry Judy needed? What do you really think about Judy's constant refusal to take responsibility for his actions and his repeated attempts to blame Sanders instead of admitting his mistakes? Could this signing be the real turning point that finally makes the Browns' offense stable and sets them up for long-term success? Or do you think Jerry Judy can still change things around, play better, and get his spot back by changing his attitude and playing better? Did Andrew Berry wait too long to do this? Should he have done it weeks ago? Or did he hit at just the right time, when the message would be heard the most? Is Jamari Thrash the answer that Cleveland has been looking for? Or is this just the start of bigger changes in the receiver room? And most importantly, do you think this shows that the Browns are finally serious about building everything around Shadur Sanders for the long term?